I stood in the doorway, holding a simple bouquet of wildflowers tied with a blue ribbon I'd recycled from last year's school project. It wasn't much, but I had saved up for the wrapping, skipped lunch for 2 days, and spent the entire morning walking the roadside picking the best blooms I could find. It was Mother's Day, and I wanted just once to feel like I mattered. "Hi, Mom," I said softly, stepping into the living room where she and my sister Camille were lounging on the couch, their feet up, the TV blaring some loud talk show. "Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video?" My mother didn't even look up. Camille glanced over and snorted. "What's that supposed to be? A compost project?" I felt my hand tighten around the flowers, but I pushed through. "They're for you," I said, holding them out with a hopeful smile. "Happy Mother's Day." My mom turned her head slowly. Her lips curled like I'd handed her something filthy. "You brought weeds?" "They're wildflowers," I said quickly, cheeks burning. "I picked them myself. The yellow ones are—" She grabbed the bouquet from my hands mid-sentence, not gently, and walked toward the kitchen. For a second, I thought she was going to put them in water, but instead, she opened the back door, walked to the mud-stained welcome mat, and dragged the bouquet across the floor like a dirty mop, smearing petals and dust across the concrete. "These are weeds," she snapped. "Your sister bought me a spa voucher and a silver necklace. You brought trash. This is what nobodies give." Camille was laughing from the couch. "Maybe next year you can give her rocks. At least they won't wilt." I stood frozen, throat tight, watching the flowers fall apart under her shoes. I had nothing else to give, nothing but that ribbon and the hours of walking and the belief that maybe, just once, I could do something that would make her smile. But she wasn't done. She looked back at me with disgust and said, "Pick that mess up. I won't have your shame lying around the house." I dropped to my knees. My fingers shook as I picked up the torn petals and bent stems. Camille stood over me, filming on her phone. "Smile for the camera, Weed Girl." That was my new name for the next 2 weeks. Weed Girl. She printed it on a label and stuck it to my bedroom door. The spa voucher? Camille hadn't even bought it. I found out later it was Dad's gift, but he gave it to her to give to Mom so Camille would get the credit. Everything they had was borrowed, even their love for each other. Everything I tried to offer was spat on like it didn't matter. That day wasn't the first time they humiliated me, but it was the first time it sunk in deep that I was never going to be part of that family the way Camille was, not even if I bled wildflowers. My little brother, Mason, was the only one who noticed I'd been crying. That night, he tiptoed into my room holding a peanut butter sandwich he'd made himself. "I didn't bring flowers," he whispered, "but I got you this." He was 7. He made me smile. And then came the day when Mason cried too, and I saw my mother push him away like he was a stray mutt. That was when everything started to change. But back then I was still crawling, still hoping, still believing. Maybe if I tried harder, loved better, gave more, maybe they'd see me, but they didn't. They only saw Camille. Camille in her designer shoes, Camille with her filtered selfies, Camille with her fake tears and real diamonds. I was the weed in their garden, the mess to sweep. But even weeds grow roots. Even weeds learn how to survive. Even weeds know how to choke. And I was done being stepped on. That moment, on my knees, picking up crushed petals, it bloomed into something else. Something cold, something waiting, something that would take years to grow. But one day, it would blossom into revenge. 3 years passed. 3 years of doing everything right and getting everything wrong in return. Camille got her dream job at a fashion boutique downtown. Dad pulled strings to get her in. I worked double shifts at a diner to pay off my community college books, and when I came home after midnight, reeking of grease and exhaustion, Mom would wrinkle her nose and say, "Could you enter through the back? The smell makes the couch stink." Camille brought boyfriends over who barely acknowledged me, but if I dared speak in my own house, Mom would hiss, "Don't embarrass your sister." One of her boyfriends once asked if I was the maid. Camille didn't correct him. She laughed. I told myself I'd move out after college. But then Mason got sick. It started with coughing fits that didn't go away. His skin turned pale. His appetite vanished. Doctors found a congenital heart defect that needed intervention. I sat through every appointment. I walked him to and from school. I held his hand in every waiting room. I saved every tip from the diner, every dollar from tutoring, every cent in a jar with his name taped on the lid. Mom, she said it was just a phase. Dad, that boy's just weak, probably takes after your side. Camille posted a selfie with Mason during one of his hospital visits. Caption, spending time with the fam, blessed. She didn't stay more than 7 minutes. Then one day, I came home from work, drenched in sweat, and walked in on Dad, throwing out Mason's medical documents, the insurance papers, the surgery estimates, all of it, straight into the trash. What are you doing? I rushed toward him. He didn't flinch. We're not paying for any of this garbage. You're making it worse. He could die, I screamed. He's already a burden, Dad said, calm like ice. Maybe it's better we cut our losses now. I couldn't believe it. I grabbed the papers. Back, heart racing, trying to sort them with trembling hands. That's when he struck me, hard, across the face. I fell sideways into the dining table, hit the corner, and crumpled to the floor. He stood over me, chest heaving. You deserve that, he growled, always trying to play hero. For what? Trash raising trash. I saw stars. My cheek throbbed. My lip split open. I looked up at him through tears, shocked not by the pain, but by the satisfaction in his eyes. Then she appeared, my mother, holding a steaming mug of tea, not even surprised. She looked at me lying there, bleeding on the hardwood floor, and said flatly, "If you want a medal for suffering, join the military. This is just parenting." That was the night I decided I wasn't going to survive them anymore. I was going to bury them. Not physically, not with cops, not with courts, not with fists, but with something colder, slower. I moved Mason into my room permanently. He slept beside me while I planned. I started taking online business classes on top of my degree. I kept working the diner, but I stopped telling them anything. I used the free public library computers to build something, a side business designing print-on-demand t-shirts, mugs, and custom home decor. The name? Weeds and Wildflowers. I told no one, just grew it, quietly. Camille? She still thought I was a loser, slaving away at a diner. My parents still thought I was pathetic, invisible, a burden next to their golden child. Let them. They never noticed Mason's health improving because I secretly found a charity program that funded part of his care. They never asked how I paid the rest, because they assumed I failed, like always. But they did notice something strange. Boxes started arriving at the house, dozens at first, then hundreds. I used our address as a return center while I grew the company. They complained, but I smiled and told them it was just some junk for resale. They bought it, because in their eyes I'd never amount to anything, because they were blind. But money wasn't the goal. Money was just the seed. The real plan was still blooming, and I was done waiting to be loved. I'd rather be feared. Mom's words echoed in my skull for weeks. Weeds from nobodies, like my effort had no weight, like my presence had never mattered. I stopped trying after that day, stopped texting, stopped showing up. My calls went unanswered anyway. I knew if I wanted something to change, it wouldn't come from apologies. It would come from silence and planning. I stayed distant, but I didn't disappear. Every time they called me dramatic behind my back for not coming to Mother's Day brunches anymore, I was listening. When Mom posted on Facebook, "So proud of my girls," well, some of them, I screenshot it, quietly, calmly, until I found something better than revenge. I found purpose. See, I started working at this local gardening center. The manager, Ruth, an older lady who wore floral gloves and cursed like a sailor, took a liking to me, said I reminded her of her daughter, gone too soon. She taught me everything: soil, root care, pruning, propagation. Plants weren't just decorations, they were survivors, like me. One day, Ruth asked if I wanted to take over the side greenhouse she'd built herself but no longer had the energy to run. She said, "You've got hands that want to heal. That's rare." I signed a contract. That greenhouse became mine. I didn't just grow flowers, I bred them. I named the first strain Amara, after the feeling I never got from Mom, Grace. The second was Lena, meaning lion-hearted. They were bright, hardy, and couldn't be ignored. I began selling them locally, then to a wedding boutique, then to a hotel. Orders came flooding in. And one day, just 1 year after she called my flowers weeds, my Amara blooms were the signature table centerpiece at a citywide charity gala, hosted by none other than my sister, Brielle. She didn't know. Not until the local newspaper praised the young floral phenom whose business was shaking the industry. My name? Right there, front page. When Mom saw it, she didn't call me. No congratulations. But I got a message from a neighbor. "Your mom's fuming, says you must have cheated your way there." I didn't reply. Instead, I sent her a bouquet, one that cost $300, one that took 3 months to cultivate, one with a small note that read, "From one nobody to another. May your floors stay clean." She never swept it. In fact, the neighbor said she kept the bouquet in a glass box, told guests it was a gift from her daughter, the one who made it big. She didn't know I was donating half my profits to the foster home she used to threaten me with as a child, or that I named my third bloom Jorah, repentance. But I knew, and every time she looked at those petals, I wanted her to remember the daughter she swept into dust, but couldn't keep down. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.